Welcome to the Fit Factor podcast, where we discuss health and fitness for those who may have mistakenly thought that their best, healthiest days were behind them. That's about to change. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Fit Factor podcast. My name is Nathan Redmond, and I'm the host here at Fit Factor, and I am glad you are here today. You know, when I first started this podcast, I had a handful of topics that I wanted to hit on at some point. And for some reason, today's topic, I've just been kind of delaying it. And it's unusual how my weeks play out, where I'll start thinking about what I want to talk about this week. And it's just uncanny. I've mentioned this before, but it's just uncanny how I'll start to hone in on a subject and it's like the universe can read my mind or something, because I'll start immediately just from thinking about a topic. I'll start hearing other people talking about the exact same thing. And I'm like, all right, that's it. It's pointing me in the direction of a given topic from week to week. And so this week is definitely no different for that. And I'm going to share something with you guys that, quite honestly, I don't even know how to really get started in it, because it's a hot topic, but it's debatable at the same time. There's so many opinions about it. You don't have to look very far, especially if you spend much time in the nutrition space, in the fitness space. This is a hot topic right now. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about my vegan experience. Yes, my vegan experience. About 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I became vegan, and I was vegan for a couple of years. And so I want to just kind of talk about that experience, what it did for me, maybe some of the pros, some of the cons, what I learned from it. And honestly, talk quite a bit about why it was temporary and why I am no longer vegan. But my vegan experience / experiment, it all started with my personal health journey 4 years ago. I was on a really structured program to lose weight that had me required on a daily basis to eat 3 servings of vegetables. And I was never opposed to vegetables. I was never anti-vegetable. I was never that guy. But I didn't eat a lot of vegetables at the same time prior to trying to get healthy. But over the 3-month period that I was eating vegetables every day, I really started finding that I loved vegetables. And so at the end of my weight loss journey, the summer of 2019, I just kind of started kicking around the idea of, man, I really liked vegetables. I wonder if I could pull off going vegetarian. And so sometime around September of 2019, I decided I'm going to try to be vegetarian. I'm just going to give it a shot. Do it for a couple of weeks. Well, a couple of weeks turned into a little over a month, and I was really enjoying it. I stopped eating meat. I continued actually to eat some animal products. I didn't go full-fledged vegan yet, but I was just basically eating lots and lots of fruits and vegetables and a little bit of meat. And sometime during that window between September and probably late October, I came across a documentary. Of course, now looking back on it, I don't know if it's a documentary as much as it's a propaganda machine, but nevertheless, I was flipping through Netflix one day and I saw this really cool show that was all about athletes, and it was called The Game Changers. And so I thought, well, that looks pretty cool. Had no idea what it was about. I just saw these athletes and the promo for it, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, and all these high-level elite world-class athletes. And I thought, that looks pretty cool. I'm going to watch it. Well, little did I know that The Game Changers is a again, I'm using that word documentary again, and it's really not a documentary, but for lack of a better term, the Game Changers documentary is all about plant-based vegan athletes who are at the top of their sport and don't eat any animal products whatsoever. And so I watched this, and I was already doing the vegetarian thing. So naturally, I was a little bit intrigued, and it sucked me in. I mean, it sucked me in. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Everything in that documentary, I thought, oh, wow, I'm really onto something. I'm really onto something. And the more I watched, I think I wound up probably watching it 3 or 4 times. I started sharing it with friends. Hey, you've really got to watch this. I even remember having my dad watch it with me. I was all in. This particular documentary had just basically, in my mind at the time, it had proven to me that I was on the right track. And so in November of 2019, I just went, I'm going to just do like 1 month. I'm going to try it for a month and just see if I can do full-fledged vegan. Now, if you don't know what veganism is, quite frankly, and simply put, it means that you don't eat anything that is sourced from an animal. They don't eat meat. They don't eat dairy. They don't eat eggs. They don't eat honey, of all things. Yeah, honey made by bees. Vegans don't eat honey. Vegans don't eat anything that is sourced from an animal. So as I started this journey, it was a really interesting time period for me in terms of my physical activity. I was introduced to triathlon in August of 2019. I met an Ironman guy, turned out to be one of my best friends in the world. His name's Marcus. He was a 2-time Ironman, and he told me, you know, I think you should try to do a sprint triathlon. Well, being the competitor that I am, I decided, yeah, let's do this. So I started training for triathlon, and the next thing you know, over a period of months, I was like fully obsessed with endurance sports, doing triathlon, training for a half Ironman, kicking around the idea of doing a full Ironman, but I never really committed to that. Running probably 25 to 40 miles a week. I just became what I would refer to, I mean, especially if you compared it to the general population, I became an endurance athlete of sorts at age 48. And I was doing the vegan thing the whole time. And I was obviously, if you know anything about the vegan diet, when you're on a vegan diet, it's extremely high carbohydrate, which was perfect for me as an endurance athlete because the amount of calories that I was burning in my workouts were in the thousands at times. And I don't even say that with hyperbole. I mean, literally, I would go on 75-mile bike rides and burn 1,500, 1,800, sometimes 2,000 calories. I'd go on 15 and 20-mile runs and burn 14, 15, 1,700 calories in a workout. So the vegan thing, because of the carbohydrates that are involved in a vegan diet, that aspect of it was perfect for me. I never ran out of energy. I could complete my runs and my rides and my swims and all the things that I was doing. I was fueled very well from an energy production standpoint. And this was all taking place for about 1.5 years. I stuck with this process. I was full-fledged vegan. I'm telling you right now, my family will tell you I was a pain in the ass to take to a restaurant. And I'm sorry, but that's just the facts. I was such a pain to take to a restaurant because I was the guy that was so committed. And if you know me at all, if you are a friend of mine, you know that when I commit to something, I don't do things halfway. I go all in, and I was all in vegan. So I'd go to a restaurant and I would ask questions. Is there any dairy in this salad dressing? Is there any eggs in this? Is there any kind of animal? I would be the guy asking questions, and it limited the menu down to such an insanely minimal degree that I would find myself at times in certain restaurants with my family not even being able to eat. I would literally just say, bring me a plate of broccoli and a small side salad. That would literally be my meal because there was nothing else that didn't have some sort of an animal product in it. So I was a pain in the butt to take to a restaurant. You did not want to go out to eat with me. If you invited me somewhere, I remember getting asked to go to a barbecue place on a trip with my daughter's volleyball team. And I showed up, but I just sat there and watched people eat because I refused to eat anything that had any animal products in it. So I was all in on the vegan thing. And then I started having some injuries. Hey guys, I want to jump in here right quick and say a word for my company, It Factor Coaching. I'm a nutrition coach, health coach, personal trainer, and I'm passionate about helping adults, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas win in their health. And there's just too many people out there struggling and not winning in their health, and they just feel like they don't know what to do. They've tried all the things. Well, I'd love to have a conversation with you or anyone you know if that connects with you, because I've helped over 400 people in the last 4 years lose over 15,000 pounds. And I would love to add you or your loved ones to that list of success stories. So if you know anybody struggling, maybe with type 2 diabetes, maybe they're struggling with high blood pressure or high cholesterol. I mean, we could go down a laundry list of things that are connected to our diets and to our physical health. And, we have solutions for that. We have a way to help make a difference in so many different chronic diseases that are taking place in our country. So you can reach me at my website, which is itfactorcoaching.health. Maybe you want to get set up on some virtual personal training. You don't know what to do when you get in the gym. I've got an app for that. I've got instructions that I can give you. I can interact with you. I can give you tips and advice and help you with that. So the sky's the limit on what I can do. I'm a one-stop shop for all things health and wellness for adults in America. So I'd love to connect with you. Just head over to my website, and from there you can reach me. And until then, hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Somewhere in when was it? Somewhere around the fall of 2021. I was training for my first full marathon, and I had a calf injury. And I think this was somewhere around maybe September or October of 2021. And my first full marathon was scheduled for January of 2022. So I was about 4 months out. I had hired a coach here locally to train me for the marathon, and I had a calf injury on one of my legs. And I went to physical therapy, and I was getting treatment on it and trying to rest it. But at the same time, I needed to get my miles in for my marathon. Well, that injury just simply wouldn't heal. Every time I thought it was better, I would re-aggravate it. And then I would give it time to heal. And then I had an injury on the other calf. So I had two calves at the same time that I had injuries in. And then I had a hamstring injury. And these little things in the fall of 2021 started creeping up on me. And I just was racking my brain thinking, what in the world? I was blaming my shoes. I was blaming the insoles of my shoes, the replaceable inserts. I was blaming all sorts of things. And then one day I had this epiphany, and I just thought, Nathan, what could it be? And it just came to me. My body is reacting based on what I'm putting into it. The food that I'm putting into it, or in this case, not putting into it, was what came to my mind. And I thought to myself, what am I lacking from this diet that could be causing these injuries? And even worse, what's lacking from my diet that's preventing me from healing from these injuries? And immediately the word came to my mind: protein. Now, every vegan on the planet that just heard that, if they heard it, immediately got triggered, because as vegans, we're very defensive about protein. We are taught through the people that we look up to that are the experts in the field that you can get all the protein you need out of a vegan diet. And at the time, I thought I was just going to trust the people that were the quote unquote experts. But through my own experience, I just simply got to a point where I had to question, am I getting enough protein? So I started supplementing with vegan protein. That didn't fix it. I was going through jugs of vegan protein. Still didn't fix it. So I thought, okay, well, if the vegan protein's not going to do it, then my next step has to be animal protein. So I justified adding seafood into my diet. So I started eating salmon. I started eating shrimp. I started eating red snapper, tuna. I started eating animal products again that were seafood-based animal products. And lo and behold, I started to heal. My injuries started to recover. I didn't have recurring injuries. And before long, I was right back where I needed to be. I was healthy again. And that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I thought, if my body is healing because of me eating animal protein, maybe, just maybe, our bodies actually need animal protein. And at that time, I decided I'm just going to start reintroducing some animal products into my diet. So I had gone from the seafood, and then I started adding eggs, and then I added some dairy, and then I started eating beef again, and then I started eating chicken again. And as I sit here today on the 10th of June, 2023, I can say with 100% honesty that ever since I reintroduced meat into my diet, I have not had one muscle tear, not one strain, not one injury. And if I did have any tweaks whatsoever, they healed so quickly that it was really almost negligible. Now, is this science? Is this data based on research? Absolutely not. I'm not sitting here saying that I have proven through any sort of substantial research that you don't get enough protein from being a vegan. What I am telling you is that in my own personal experience, after suffering with injuries for months and not being able to heal from those injuries, and then adding animal protein and eventually full-fledged animal products back into my diet, I have not had any issues since doing that. So it's completely anecdotal. I get that. I'm not sitting here saying that I have proven anything in the world of veganism or eating animal products or any of that. I'm simply telling you my personal experience. So when I became a nutrition coach, I learned so much about nutrition that I never, ever understood before. And one of the things I learned during my training to become a certified nutrition coach had to do with a very specific branched chain amino acid that comes only in animal products, with the exception, and I'm going to make sure that I do give credit where credit's due, with the exception of soybeans. Soybeans are the only plant product on the planet that have this branched chain amino acid. But most people are afraid of soy. Good God, if I had a nickel for every time I heard somebody go, oh, soy's not good for you, especially men. Soy will make you grow man boobs. Soy will make your testicles shrink. Soy this, soy that. It raises your estrogen. I've heard so many negative things about soy. So, having said that, soybeans contain this branch chain. But other than that, all the other foods that vegans live off of do not contain a very specific and an incredibly important branch chain amino acid. And that branch chain amino acid is what we call leucine. Leucine is a branch chain amino acid that is responsible for signaling the beginning of protein synthesis. You can eat protein on top of protein on top of protein. But if there is not leucine in that protein, there is nothing signaling the beginning of protein synthesis. You can eat all the black beans in the world. You can have all the hummus in the world. You can find all the sources of protein that vegans lean on, the brown rice and the quinoa. You can go to all those things, but you will not find a sufficient enough amount of leucine to trigger the start of protein synthesis. That only comes in animal products. So when I came to the conclusion that my muscle injuries were caused, or not caused, that's not really the right way to put it, the healing of those injuries was being prevented. That's probably a better way to say it. The healing of those injuries was being prevented by my lack of leucine in my diet. I wasn't getting enough leucine, so muscle protein synthesis was not starting, and the muscle fibers that needed to grow to heal my injuries simply weren't getting healed because they did not have the protein synthesis necessary for them to recover the way that they needed to. All right. Now, over these past, 6, 9 months, a year, maybe. As a nutrition coach, and especially somebody who used to be vegan, I've found myself looking into more and more things having to do with the vegan diet that I wanted to know for myself and to be able to share with people that might be interested in becoming vegan or maybe vegan now. And I'll be honest with you, when I was a vegan, I tried to push a lot of people to become vegans, and there's no telling how many people out there actually listened to me and did it. I do know of one person specifically. I've got a friend named Chris that went full-fledged vegan, and I know without any shadow of a doubt, I was the person that triggered that for him. He's having a phenomenal experience, the best I can tell so far. But those friends that I kind of pushed into the vegan lifestyle or maybe pressured, or however you want to put it, when you know how it is, when people are vegan, they want everybody to know. It's kind of like CrossFit. You can't be in CrossFit and not tell people, hey, I'm in CrossFit. It's just what you do. So vegans, if we know vegans, we all know that they're the people that are like, they want to make sure everybody knows they're vegans. They want to wave the flag, the vegan flag. So I personally found in my own experience that the vegan diet was deficient in the leucine, but I've also found since then that there's some very key vitamins and minerals and nutrients that are lacking severely in the vegan diet. And I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that there were some things that started coming to me during this past week as I was considering this topic that kind of told me, hey, this is where we need to go. I heard a story this week about a guy who I followed heavily when I was a vegan. In fact, he was probably the one guy that I looked up to and thought, man, that dude's vegan, and look what he's doing as a vegan. It must work. So I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but there's a guy that I follow by the name of Rich Roll. And he wrote a book called Finding Ultra. Phenomenal book. His story is absolutely mind-boggling. If you haven't heard of him, just at the very least, go look up his story of where he came from and the things he accomplished and what he came out of and brought himself out of. But Rich Roll is a guy that I looked up to. He's what they refer to as an Ultraman. Ultraman, he has done 5 full Ironmans on the 5 different islands of Hawaii. And I think he did it in 5 days, an Ironman a day for 5 days on the 5 islands of Hawaii. The guy's an absolute freak show, or at least he was. And I say was because this past week I heard an interview with him where he was discussing some physical ailments that he's going through right now that have limited him so severely that he's not even able to participate in any activities that he used to love. He's no longer able to ride his bike. He's no longer able to go for runs. And he was a college swimmer, so a very high-level swimmer, and he's not even able to swim anymore because of the pain in his back. He has degenerative discs, and he's having problems with his body that, looking back over his career as a vegan, you can start to pinpoint some things and think, animal products would have helped prevent this. So he has been banging the drum of plant-based and vegan lifestyle for years, and he's only 56 years old, and now he's come to a point where he can't even go for a run or ride his bike or even go for a swim because his body is so broken down. And is there evidence right now? Is there proof that it's because he was a vegan? I can't say that. I can't say that there's proof that this is exactly why Rich Roll's body is breaking down. But at the age of 56, the things that he's unable to do now, if you start connecting the dots, I think the magnifying glass shines very, very distinctly on nutrition and what he has been eating for so many years. And so he's one of those guys that I looked up to, and now looking at how my life was changed through being vegan, and then how I had to change back to being more of an omnivore and eating plants and animal products. I look at a guy like Rich Roll and I think, man, I can see it. I can see how your body would have been breaking down. So there's a few things that you probably need to know if you've ever considered being vegan. Just some key vitamins that are very lacking in a vegan diet. So I'm going to just share just a few, just like a handful of important vitamins that we need on a daily basis for our health. So let's start here. When you become a vegan, one thing you know and you hear from other vegans is you have to supplement B12. Vitamin B12 is a must because vitamin B12 comes from animal products, and specifically it comes from meat. B12 is a vitamin that all vegans know they have to supplement their B12. What does B12 do? Well, it helps make DNA. It prevents a form of anemia that makes you tired and weak. So B12 is something that without B12, you simply cannot live healthy. You just can't. Your body needs B12 and you don't get anywhere near enough of it as a vegan. Another one is B2, which is also known as riboflavin. Now, riboflavin, what's it responsible for? It helps convert your carbohydrates that you eat into the glucose that your body uses as fuel. So it literally helps you produce energy by converting carbohydrates into glucose. So vitamin B2 is lacking in a vegan diet. Vitamin B3, also known as niacin, is lacking in a vegan diet. So every part of our body uses niacin, especially our brain. It helps boost our brain function. Our cognitive abilities are highly influenced, and niacin is important for brain function. Vitamin D, we all know what vitamin D is for now. Post-COVID, if we haven't heard by now that vitamin D is important for our immune system, then I don't know where you've been the last 3 years. But vitamin D is very lacking in a vegan diet, and that's a huge piece of our immune system. Calcium, very lacking in a vegan diet. Obviously, we know calcium is important for strong bone, but it also plays a role in our nerve function and our function of our muscles. And guess what your most important muscle in your body is? It's your heart. So calcium is incredibly important, and it's lacking in a vegan diet. And the last one I'm going to mention is this, iodine. Iodine is a huge player in your metabolism because what it does is it works with your thyroid gland to make your thyroid hormones. So your metabolism is highly impacted by iodine, which is very lacking in a vegan diet. And these are just a handful. This is like just a half dozen. We could be here all day going down a list of things that are lacking in a vegan diet, but these are things to take into consideration that I just mentioned. And I do want to share a couple of stats with you because this is important for you to know too. As far as just like a decision, because I know the plant-based movement is very strong right now. Beyond Meat, I think is what it's called, is a new fake meat you can get in the grocery stores. There's all kinds of new plant-based things coming out. It's got enough traction now to where everybody knows somebody who's plant-based. Everybody knows somebody who's a vegan or a vegetarian. Roughly 2% of Americans are vegan. Very small number. But that number has grown significantly over the past few years. It's just getting more and more popular. So I'm going to give you some stats about vegans and kind of where things are at, especially here in America. 5 times, this is crazy to me, there are 5 times as many ex-vegans as there are vegans. 5 times. So 5 times as many people have tried veganism and said, I'll pass, I'm done, can't do it, I'm not doing this anymore. 5 times as many people that have tried it and gone back to being at the very least omnivores, if not full carnivore. 5 times as many people that have done it as what are still considering themselves as vegan. 2/3 of vegans are females. Now, that's really insignificant in the grand scheme of things, with the exception of one thing. When you're on a vegan diet, you severely lack the necessary amount of omega-3 fatty acids, also known specifically more scientifically as DHEA. Now, DHEA is incredibly important to the brain development of babies, of fetuses. So when a mother is pregnant, omega-3 fatty acids, DHEA, they play a huge role in the cognitive development, in the brain development of fetuses while in the womb. They have found through some studies that there's connections to ADHD and to it's slipping my mind. Gosh, I'll think of it in a second. But there are connections that they're finding through lacks of DHEA and omega-3 fatty acids with women who were vegan during their pregnancies. Okay. So I think that's really important for us to understand. All right. Also, just anecdotally, if you find a product that calls itself vegan, just tell you a quick story. A couple years ago when I was vegan, I went to a cupcake shop here local. It's called Crave Cupcakes. I walked in with my family. I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to get anything. I mean, cupcakes are made with eggs and milk and all the things that vegans can't eat. Lo and behold, they had a vegan cupcake in there. A vegan cupcake. And I thought, winner, chicken dinner. I'll take one of those vegan cupcakes. It had been quite some time since I ate really any sweets. I was just not a sweets guy anymore. I had kind of kicked that to the curb. I ate this vegan cupcake, and within 30 minutes, I was basically asleep. It put me smooth out. And come to find out, yes, it was vegan. No, it did not have animal products in it, but it had an insane amount of sugar. Don't think that just because something is labeled as vegan that it's healthy. Doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. Heck, as far as I know, Cheetos are vegan. As far as I know, potato chips are vegan. There's a lot of things out there that vegans eat, and they say, I can eat this because it doesn't have animal products, and it's terribly unhealthy for you. So just keep that in mind. If you're ever shopping, you're like, oh, vegan cupcakes, oh, vegan cookies, oh, vegan ice cream. The sugar content in that is probably insanely high. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. There was a study that was done with 4,181 adults, 4,181 adults that had psychiatric issues like anxiety and depression. And this is shocking. This shocked me when I found this. 35% of those people identified as vegan, 17% identified as vegetarian, and 27% identified as semi-vegetarian. Now you can do the math on that. That's a total of 79% of the people who were in this study who suffered with psychiatric issues. 79% were vegans or vegetarians. Only 21% of the people that were in the study were omnivores and meat eaters. Now, you come to your own conclusions with that. We're basically talking about an 80-20 split of people who are suffering from psychiatric issues. And about 80% of the people in that study labeled themselves or identified as either vegan or vegetarian. So what are they lacking in their diets that could potentially be causing these problems? Who knows? But it's not a 50-50 split. It's not even a 60-40 split. 80-20 split. Are you kidding me? That's incredibly high. So there's got to be something to those numbers. That's not just coincidental. That's not just, something that we can just ignore. So when you look at the lack of leucine that's missing from a vegan diet in most muscle protein synthesis, when you look at the lack of vitamins like B12 and B2 and B3 and vitamin D and calcium and all those things that we went over earlier, when you look at the stats on psychiatric issues and how unbelievably weighted it is in the direction of people who call themselves vegan or vegetarian, I just feel like it's something that it's worth taking all of those into consideration when thinking about potentially going in that direction. And on my personal experience, with a year and a half roughly of being injury-free after reintroducing animal products back into my diet and having a season of 3 or 4 months where I simply could not heal from injuries while I was trying to be vegan, all of these things tell me that we were really created to eat both plants and animals. There's definitely elements of our atomic structure that anatomical structure, atomic, not atomic, anatomical structure that show very clearly that we were meant to eat both. Everything from our teeth, which have specific shapes to them and sharpness levels to them to be able to chew fibrous vegetables and to be able to cut meat at the same time. Everything from our intestines, which are designed to be able to process both meat and vegetables. There's a lot of aspects to our bodies that if we just look at them and use a little bit of common sense, we can say to ourselves, yeah, it just totally makes sense. We're meant to be omnivores. So I hope this, who knows, maybe you've thought about going vegan. Maybe you've thought about going vegetarian. Just take some of these things into consideration. Do a little bit more research by all means. I mean, don't think that everything I've told you here is all you need to learn. I mean, Google, YouTube, for crying out loud, Chat GPT. I mean, you've got so many resources to be able to do your own research. So I would just suggest this and encourage you to do that. Do exactly that. Do some research. Talk to some people that have been vegan and maybe switched back. We just mentioned a minute ago, 5 times as many people have tried veganism and gone back to a regular diet as those who have gone vegan and stayed vegan. Maybe you find some people like that in your life that you say, hey, tell me what you experienced. Why'd you go back? And just do a little research, because plant-based lifestyle, the vegan thing, it's getting enough traction now to where a lot of people are considering it. So I just want this to be a part of the process. If that's you, or if you know somebody that applies to, it's just some things for them to consider. So appreciate you guys stopping by today. And before you go, let me just, if you do me a huge favor, would you please go and just leave a review of my podcast? And if you like the podcast, if you like what you're getting from me, I would love a 5-star review. And I also love it if you would just share this podcast with some people that you know. If you can share it, and if you can leave a review, that's going to do that much more to just help me find more people that I can help and get in front of more people that might be looking for content like what I'm trying to produce. So I hope this was helpful. And until next week, have a fantastic summer day. Of course, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, have a fantastic winter day. But I'm out of here. Peace. You guys have a good week.